When pride becomes prison, Captain Maya Rodriguez stood before the towering crystalline doors of the Galactic Council chamber, her breath forming small clouds in the frigid air of Nexus Station. The massive space station orbited a dying star at the galaxy's center, its cold blue light casting eerie shadows through the transparent corridors. Maya adjusted her Earth Federation uniform one final time, knowing that what happened in the next few hours would determine humanity's fate among the stars. 50 years had passed since humanity's first contact with alien life. What began as wonder and excitement had slowly transformed into frustration and resentment. The Galactic Council, composed of 12 ancient species, had welcomed Earth with promises of knowledge, technology, and prosperity. Instead, humanity found itself trapped in an endless cycle of requirements, tests, and delays. The crystalline doors sang as they opened, revealing the grand chamber beyond. Maya stepped inside, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. The chamber was arranged in 12 ascending tiers, each occupied by representatives of different alien species. At the bottom, barely elevated above the chamber floor, sat the human delegation's single chair. High above on the golden 12th tier sat High Counselor Vex Thul of the Krithari Empire. The insectoid being's compound eyes glittered like black jewels as he looked down upon Maya with barely concealed disdain. His mandibles clicked together in what Maya had learned was the Krithari equivalent of contemptuous laughter. The other council members observed from their assigned positions. The gaseous Zeridians floated in their containment fields on the 11th tier, their forms shifting like controlled storms. Below them, the plant-like Valorians swayed gently, their photosynthetic cells pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. The aquatic Pelagians occupied water-filled chambers on the 9th tier, their tentacled forms graceful despite their obvious discomfort with the chamber's cold atmosphere. Maya had spent 3 years learning about each species, their histories, their cultures, their contributions to galactic civilization. What she discovered had both amazed and disturbed her. Every species on the council had earned their position through some great achievement or natural advantage. The Krithari had conquered half the galaxy before establishing the council. The Zeridians could manipulate stellar phenomena. The Valorians had mastered biological engineering on a planetary scale. And humanity? Humanity was still proving itself worthy. The council recognizes the human representative. Vexthul's voice echoed through the chamber, translated into English by the Universal Communication System. You have requested this emergency session. State your purpose. Maya activated her personal display, filling the air above the chamber with holographic documents. Honored counselors, I come before you today to discuss Earth's final petition for full membership in the Galactic Council. A ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the assembled aliens. Maya had grown accustomed to their condescension. Over the years, humanity's previous applications had been rejected for various reasons. Too aggressive, too emotional, too unpredictable, too young as a species. Your species shows promise, admitted Counselor Threshka of the Valorians, her voice like wind through leaves. But the question remains whether humanity possesses the wisdom necessary for council membership. Maya nodded respectfully. With respect, Counselor, humanity has spent 50 years demonstrating our capabilities. We have contributed to 17 major galactic projects, assisted in the colonization of 43 worlds, and provided medical aid during 6 major health crises. As junior partners, interjected Counselor Mordak of the Aquatic Pelagians, his words creating bubbles in his water chamber, always under the supervision and guidance of established council species. Indeed, Maya said, her voice carrying a new edge that made several counselors lean forward with interest. Always as junior partners, never recognized for our innovations, never credited for our discoveries, always positioned as students learning from our betters. The chamber fell silent. Maya could feel the weight of 12 species' attention focused upon her. This was the moment she had been preparing for. Today I bring you the Council's final offer to humanity, Vex Thul announced, his mandibles spreading in satisfaction. After careful consideration, The Council has agreed to grant Earth the status of protected species. Maya's display shifted to show an ornate document bearing the seals of all 12 Council species. She had received this document 3 days ago, and reading it had changed everything. The protected species designation, Maya said slowly, grants humanity the privilege of contributing our labor and resources to Council projects while receiving food, housing, and protection in return. We would be valued servants of galactic civilization. The offer is generous, Vexthul replied. Your species would have security, purpose, and the honor of serving the greater galactic community. Many developing civilizations would be grateful for such an opportunity. Maya touched her wrist communicator and her expression hardened. I have reviewed this offer extensively, High Counselor. I have also reviewed some rather interesting documents that came into my possession. New holograms filled the chamber, showing technical specifications, research reports, and patent applications. The assembled counselors shifted uneasily as they recognized their own official seals on the documents. These are the revolutionary terraforming techniques that transformed the barren worlds of the Outer Rim, Maya announced. Techniques developed by Dr. Elena Vasquez of the Mars Terraforming Institute. Yet the official records credit the Valorian Botanical Council. Counselor Threshka's bioluminescent patterns flickered with agitation. Those techniques were developed through collaborative effort. These are the medical protocols that ended the Red Plague across 17 systems, Maya continued, her voice growing stronger. Protocols created by Dr. Michael Kim of the Seoul Medical Research Center. The official records credit the Zeridian Health Ministry. The gaseous Zeridian representative pulsed with disturbed colors but remained silent. The quantum communication networks that connect distant worlds. The fusion reactor designs that power your cities. The agricultural methods that feed billions. The transportation systems that move goods across the galaxy. Maya's presentation continued, revealing innovation after innovation that bore hidden, human fingerprints. Every advancement credited to Council species over the past 30 years can be traced back to human researchers, engineers, doctors, and scientists. Patents filed by humans were rejected while identical designs submitted by Council members were approved. Research papers were published with human names removed. Trade agreements were structured to ensure that the benefits of human innovation flowed upward while humanity received only maintenance wages. The chamber erupted in protests and denials. But Maya's voice cut through the chaos. Furthermore, I have documented evidence that human workers throughout Council space have been systematically prevented from advancing beyond junior positions, regardless of their qualifications or achievements. High Counselor Vexthul's compound, eyes focused on Maya with predatory intensity. These are serious accusations, human. You claim that your primitive species has contributed more to galactic civilization than ancient races who have traveled the stars for millennia. Maya met his gaze without flinching. I claim nothing, High Counselor. I present evidence. The documentation is complete and verifiable. Every innovation I've mentioned can be traced back to human origins through research records, prototype designs, and witness testimony. Even if these claims have merit, interjected the Luminar representative from the 10th tier, their crystalline form pulsing with cold light. They do not change the fundamental reality. Humanity lacks the maturity and wisdom to participate in galactic governance as equals. Your species is driven by emotion rather than logic. Maya smiled, and for the first time in 3 years it was genuine. Our emotions drive us to innovate, to explore, to help others even when there's no immediate benefit to ourselves. These qualities you dismiss as weaknesses have produced every advancement that has improved life throughout Council space. She closed her briefcase with a decisive snap. Today I was prepared to present humanity's formal application for full Council membership. We have met every criterion, exceeded every expectation, and contributed more to galactic welfare than most species achieve in centuries. The chamber fell silent as Maya's next words carried to every corner of the vast space. Instead, I received the Council's generous offer of protected status, a form of slavery dressed in diplomatic language. Maya's voice carried absolute conviction. Humanity declines. The words hit the chamber like a physical force. Several counselors began speaking at once, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of disbelief and growing alarm. "You cannot simply decline," Vexthal snarled, rising from his golden platform. "Your species needs the Council. Without our protection, without access to our markets and technologies, humanity will remain trapped in its primitive corner of the galaxy." Maya looked up at the towering alien, her voice steady and clear. "Perhaps, but we will be free." She turned to address the entire council, her words carrying the weight of a decision that would reshape the galaxy. Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from all negotiations with the Galactic Council. We recall our diplomatic missions, our research teams, our medical staff, our engineers, and our trade representatives. Humanity will no longer participate in any council-sponsored projects or programs. The chamber erupted in chaos as representatives from every species began shouting objections, threats, and desperate bargaining offers. Through it all, Maya walked calmly toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence that followed her wake. At the crystalline doors, she turned back one final time. "You taught us that we were not worthy of equality. Today, we have learned that you were right. We are not your equals." Maya smiled as understanding began to dawn on some of the alien faces. "We are so much more than that." The doors sang shut behind her, cutting off the rising panic from within. Maya walked to the communication station outside the chamber and sent a single message that would reach every human installation throughout the galaxy. "Operation Exodus is now active. Come home." Behind her, through the crystal walls of the council building, she could hear the sounds of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy beginning to understand what they had just lost. In the distance, human ships were already changing course, carrying with them the knowledge, skills, and innovations that had secretly held galactic civilization together. Maya looked up at the dying star that lit Nexus Station and smiled. For the first time in 50 years, she felt truly free. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you underestimated humanity's resolve. As her shuttle departed the station, emergency signals began flashing across council space. Without human oversight, the carefully maintained balance of technology and expertise was already beginning to crumble. The council had chosen pride over partnership, dominance over cooperation. Now they would discover the true cost of that choice. When Giants Fall 3 months had passed since Captain Maya Rodriguez walked out of the Galactic Council chamber, and Dr. James Park stood in the sterile corridors of the Zephyrian Research Station watching his team pack the last of their equipment, the towering blue-skinned aliens who ran the facility observed from a distance, their usually confident demeanor replaced by something James had never seen before in their species: genuine fear. James had spent 8 years on this station, working alongside the Zephyrians to develop treatments for diseases that affected silicon-based lifeforms. What the aliens didn't know was that James and his human colleagues had been solving problems in weeks that Zephyrian researchers had struggled with for decades. The breakthrough treatments that had made the Zephyrians famous throughout the galaxy were actually human innovations, refined and perfected by minds that approached problems from completely different angles. Chief Researcher Calthis approached James, her elongated limbs moving with the fluid grace typical of her species. Her large black eyes, normally steady and confident, now darted nervously as she spoke. "Dr. Park, surely there must be some misunderstanding. Your research is vital to our people's survival. The crystal rot spreading through the outer colonies shows no signs of slowing." James paused in securing a delicate piece of diagnostic equipment, his weathered hands gentle despite the tension in the air. At 45, he had dedicated his life to healing, regardless of species. The crystal rot could be stopped within days if the Zephyrians understood the simple solution that had occurred to him months ago. "The cure exists, Calthis," James replied, his voice heavy with regret. "The solution is actually quite elegant, once you understand the interaction between crystalline cellular decay and quantum field fluctuations." The alien researcher's form brightened with desperate hope. "Then you will help us? You will share this knowledge?" "I tried to share it," James said sadly, 8 months ago, I submitted a complete treatment protocol to the Council Medical Authority. It was rejected because it came from a junior species researcher. When Dr. Velkarian submitted the same protocol 3 weeks later with minor modifications, it was accepted for full review. Calthus's bioluminescent patches dimmed with what James recognized as shame among her people. The treatment protocol was still buried in bureaucratic review, while colonies died from a plague that could be eliminated in a matter of days. I would gladly teach you the complete solution, James continued, but Earth has recalled all human medical personnel. I have my orders. As James's shuttle departed the station, he watched through the viewport as emergency signals began flashing across the Zephyrian colonies. Without human medical staff, the carefully maintained balance of treatments and preventive care was already breaking down. The Zephyrians had always assumed their human colleagues were merely assistants, carrying out procedures developed by superior alien minds. They were about to learn how catastrophically wrong they had been. Halfway across the galaxy, Admiral Sarah Chen was coordinating the largest evacuation in human history. The former head of Earth's Deep Space Engineering Corps, Sarah now oversaw the systematic withdrawal of human personnel from every council facility, research station, and colony world. Her ship, the ESS Defiance, hung in orbit above the industrial world of Cromal Prime, watching as the last human transport vessels loaded their precious cargo of people and knowledge. The Chromalian representatives had been growing increasingly desperate as the evacuation proceeded. Their entire interstellar transportation network depended on quantum tunnel drives that human engineers had not just improved, but completely redesigned from the ground up. The aliens had the ships and the basic technology, but they lacked the intuitive understanding that made it all work efficiently. Governor Thekmore materialized on the bridge of the Defiance, his energy-based form crackling with agitation. The Chromalians existed as living plasma, contained within specialized suits that allowed them to interact with solid matter. Admiral Chen, this is madness. Without your engineers, our cargo routes will become unreliable within weeks. Trade between star systems will slow to a crawl. Sarah looked up from the evacuation report streaming across her command console. Governor, my engineering team spent years trying to explain our improvements to your technical staff. Every suggestion was dismissed as primitive intuition rather than proper scientific method. Your specialists insisted that our approach was fundamentally flawed. Perhaps we were hasty in that assessment, Thekmore admitted, his pride warring with desperation. Perhaps we could reconsider the value of human input. Perhaps, Sarah. Agreed. But my orders are clear. All human personnel and technology are to be withdrawn immediately. Your engineers assured the Council that they could improve upon our primitive designs. Now they'll have the chance to prove it. As the last human transport cleared Cromal Prime's atmosphere, Sarah watched the planet's orbital traffic control systems begin to falter. Ships arriving from distant star systems found themselves waiting hours for landing clearance instead of the usual minutes. Cargo schedules that had run with clockwork precision for decades started falling behind. The elegant efficiency that human coordinators had brought to galactic commerce was disappearing, leaving chaos in its wake. The pattern was repeating itself across Council space. On the agricultural worlds of the Valorian system, human farming specialists were dismantling the vertical growing towers that had tripled food production. The plant-like Valorians watched in growing panic as their human partners explained that the sophisticated nutrient cycling systems would fail within a single growing season without constant adjustment and maintenance. You cannot simply abandon these facilities, pleaded Agricultural Minister Sithvara, her root system quivering with distress. These farms feed 17 billion beings across 12 star systems. Dr. Amanda Foster, Earth's leading expert in xenobotanical engineering, looked sadly at the towering green structures she had spent a decade perfecting. Minister, my team has been trying to train your specialists in these techniques for years. Every time we showed them a more efficient approach, we were told that plants don't respond to emotional manipulation by primitive carbon-based life forms. The Valorians' photosynthetic cells flickered with embarrassment. Perhaps our researchers were overly focused on traditional methods. Traditional methods, Amanda repeated, gesturing to the farms around them. Produced barely enough food to sustain your population. Human-developed techniques tripled your yields while using 60% less water and mineral nutrients. But every innovation was officially credited to Valorian botanists after we perfected it. As the human transports lifted off from the agricultural worlds, automated systems began their inevitable decline toward failure. The carefully balanced nutrient feeds, the precisely timed growth hormones, the pest management protocols that had eliminated crop diseases across multiple star systems, all of it required human intuition and adaptability to function properly. The Valorians had the equipment, but they lacked the deep understanding of biological systems that made it work. The crisis was spreading faster than anyone had anticipated. On Nexus Station, the grand capital of the Council, emergency sessions had been running continuously for weeks. The chamber that had once been filled with arrogant certainty was now thick with panic and desperation. High Counselor Vexthul paced before the assembly, his insectoid features twisted with fury and growing fear. "Status reports from all sectors," he demanded, his mandibles clicking with agitation. The reports came in a steady stream of disasters. The Zeridian representative, a shimmering cloud of conscious gas, pulsed with distressed colors as it spoke. Communication efficiency between star systems has decreased by 60%. The elegant translation protocols that enabled seamless interaction between species have been replaced with basic systems that introduce significant errors and delays. The Luminar delegate's crystalline form rang with harmonic distress. Our stellar engineering projects are experiencing critical failures. The humans somehow understood plasma dynamics and solar manipulation at an intuitive level that our mathematical models cannot replicate. The aquatic Pelagian representative's tentacles writhed in his water chamber as he delivered his report. Deep-sea mining operations have dropped by 75%. The extraction equipment refuses to function efficiently without the environmental modifications that only human engineers seemed able to provide. Each report was worse than the last. The Valorians admitted they could not maintain the agricultural systems that fed billions. The Chromalians confessed that their transportation network was fragmenting. Even the ancient and supposedly wise council species found themselves unable to replicate the innovations that humans had quietly contributed to every aspect of galactic civilization. "This is impossible," roared Vexthul. "How can one primitive species be responsible for so much of our technological infrastructure?" The newest member of the Emergency Council, a nervous Pelagian scientist named Current Keeper, bubbled a response that sent chills through the chamber. Perhaps they were never primitive at all. The silence that followed was broken by an urgent communication signal. The massive display screens around the chamber activated, showing a map of the galaxy dotted with red warning indicators. Each red dot represented a critical system failure somewhere in Council space. The Synthetic Intelligence Network representative, a chrome-plated android that served as the Council's primary data processor, analyzed the information with mechanical precision. Economic projections indicate complete systemic collapse within 14 months if current trends continue. Supply chains are fragmenting. Communication networks are degrading. Food production is insufficient to maintain current population levels across 47 worlds. "What about our emergency reserves?" demanded Vexthul. "Backup systems? Alternative suppliers?" All backup systems relied on human-maintained primary infrastructure. The android replied with emotionless accuracy. "Emergency supplies are distributed through human-designed logistics networks. Even our strategic resource stockpiles require preservation techniques developed by human scientists." As the awful truth settled over the Council, a new communication signal pierced the chamber's chaos. The screen shifted to show Captain Maya Rodriguez transmitting from a human vessel somewhere in deep space. She appeared calm and professional, her uniform crisp and her expression serene. "Honored representatives of the Galactic Council," Maya began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's communication system. "We are receiving reports of widespread system failures throughout Council space. Earth wishes to express its regret that these difficulties have arisen so soon after our departure. Vexthul leaned forward desperately, his compound eyes focusing on Maya's image. Rodriguez, thank the void you've contacted us. Surely Earth can see that this situation benefits no one. We are prepared to discuss new terms for human participation in council activities. Maya's expression didn't change. I'm afraid you misunderstand, High Counselor. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. The chamber erupted in protests and demands, but Maya continued speaking as if she couldn't hear them. Earth is establishing the Independent Worlds Coalition. We invite any species that seeks genuine cooperation rather than domination to join us. The coalition will be based on principles of equality, mutual respect, and shared benefit. You cannot survive without the Council, Vexthul shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. Without access to our markets, our technology, our protection, humanity will be isolated and vulnerable. Maya smiled, and there was something profoundly unsettling about the expression. Actually, High Counselor, it appears that you cannot survive without us. But we wish you well in your efforts to rebuild your civilization. Perhaps this experience will teach you the value of cooperation over domination. The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. Around the galaxy, human ships were carrying their crews toward the unknown regions beyond Council space. Behind them, the most advanced civilization in galactic history was beginning to collapse under the weight of its own arrogance. In the depths of space, refugee ships from a dozen species were changing course, following the human fleet toward an uncertain but hopeful future. Exiled Zephyrian researchers who had questioned Council policies, Valorian colonies that had rebelled against the agricultural quotas, Chromalian traders who dreamed of fair commerce, Pelagian scientists who valued knowledge over hierarchy. They had all heard Maya's message about the Independent Worlds Coalition, and they had made their choice. The old order was dying, crumbling as its fundamental weaknesses were exposed. But something new was being born among the stars, something that valued innovation over tradition, cooperation over domination, and hope over fear. The galaxy would never be the same again. Building tomorrow. 2 years had passed since humanity's dramatic exodus from Council space, and Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of New Horizon Station, watching the impossible become reality. The massive space station orbited, a vibrant blue-green world that had been uninhabitable just 18 months ago. Now it teemed with life from dozens of species, all working together to build something the galaxy had never seen before, a truly cooperative civilization. Maya wore the simple black uniform of the Independent Worlds Coalition, her new title embroidered, in 7 different languages, Director of Interspecies Relations. It was a position that hadn't existed in the old Council system, where relationships between species were based on rigid hierarchy and exploitation rather than genuine partnership and mutual understanding. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the daily miracle that New Horizon had become. Human agricultural specialists worked alongside reformed Valorian botanists to create hybrid farms that produced food for both carbon and silicon-based life forms. Zephyrian medical researchers collaborated with human doctors to develop treatments that worked across species barriers. In the orbital shipyards, vessels unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen took shape under the guidance of truly integrated design teams. A gentle chime announced an arrival, and Maya turned to see Dr. James Park entering the observation lounge. The former medical researcher looked years younger than he had during the evacuation, his eyes bright with the satisfaction of meaningful work. Behind him walked Kelnara, a Zephyrian refugee who had become his closest collaborator in developing multi-species medical protocols. Maya, James said, his voice carrying genuine excitement. You need to see what we've accomplished in the medical bay. Kelnara and I have just completed the first successful treatment of Andromedan blood fever, using combined human Zephyrian protocols. Kelnara's bioluminescent patches pulsed with joy as she spoke. Dr. Park's insight into protein interaction, dynamics combined with our understanding of quantum cellular resonance, has created something neither species could achieve alone. We can now treat conditions that the Council's medical establishment considered permanently incurable. Maya smiled, remembering the desperate pleas they had received from council worlds as various plagues and diseases spread unchecked. The Coalition's response had been swift and generous, offering free medical aid to any world that requested it, regardless of their political affiliation. It was a policy that had shocked many refugees who were accustomed to the Council's practice of using medical assistance as a tool of political control. The door chimed again, and Admiral Sarah Chen entered with her usual confident stride. The former evacuation coordinator now served as the Coalition's Director of Infrastructure Development, overseeing the transformation of barren systems into thriving multi-species colonies. Her success rate was unprecedented, largely because she worked with the natural characteristics of each world, rather than trying to force them into standardized templates. Maya, we've just received confirmation from the Kepler system, Sarah announced, her weathered face showing the satisfaction of another successful project. The terraforming project is running 3 months ahead of schedule, and the first permanent settlements will be ready within 6 months. More importantly, we've received formal requests from 23 former council worlds asking if we can help with their own environmental crises. What's the situation in council space? Maya asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Sarah's expression darkened slightly. Complete systemic collapse. The Krithari Empire is fragmenting as colony worlds declare independence faster than they can suppress the rebellions. Communication between member worlds has degraded to the point where some systems haven't received official messages in months. Trade has essentially stopped functioning, and there are reports of widespread famine on agricultural worlds that used to be the most productive in the galaxy. Maya nodded grimly. The Coalition had been monitoring the Council's decline with a mixture of sadness and inevitability. The old system had been built on exploitation and arrogance, and without human innovation to hold it together, it was collapsing, under its own weight. What surprised her was how quickly it had happened and how completely the supposedly advanced alien civilizations had depended on human ingenuity. A priority alert sounded through the station's communication system, indicating an incoming transmission of the highest importance. Maya moved to the central console and activated the holographic display. The image that appeared showed a being she had never seen before, tall, elegant, with flowing silver hair and skin that seemed to shimmer with internal light. "Director Rodriguez," the alien said, his voice carrying musical undertones that indicated a highly sophisticated vocal system. "I am Ambassador Kethvar of the Katorian Stellar Federation. We formally request permission to open diplomatic relations with the Independent Worlds Coalition." Maya exchanged glances with James and Sarah. The Katorians had been one of the Council's most loyal member species, their advanced technology and ancient wisdom making them valuable allies of the Krithari Empire. For them to approach the Coalition represented a significant shift in galactic politics. "Ambassador Kethvar," Maya replied carefully, "we welcome diplomatic contact with all species. However, we understood that the Katorian Federation was firmly committed to the Council structure." The alien's shimmering skin dimmed slightly, and Maya recognized the expression as one of regret. "That assessment was accurate until recently, Director. However, our analysis of current events has led to a fundamental revision of our foreign policy. The Council system was predicated on the assumption that hierarchy and control produce stability and prosperity. Our observations indicate that the Coalition's cooperative model produces superior results across all measurable parameters." Maya leaned forward with interest. "What changed your perspective, Ambassador?" "Evidence, Director. Irrefutable evidence." Kethvar's form brightened as he began to present information. Productivity in Coalition space has increased by an average of 400% compared to pre-independence levels. Innovation rates have exceeded anything recorded in galactic history. Most significantly, individual satisfaction indices for all member species show improvements that our sociologists previously considered theoretically impossible. The ambassador paused, his large eyes focusing directly on Maya. "We also observed something that our previous models did not account for: the exponential effects of genuine cooperation. When beings work together as true equals rather than in hierarchical structures, The resulting synergy produces outcomes that exceed the sum of individual contributions. Admiral Sarah chuckled softly. We call that teamwork, Ambassador. It's an old human concept. Indeed, Kethvar replied with what might have been a smile. We have learned that humans possess many old concepts that are actually revolutionary advances in social organization. The Katorian Federation wishes to learn these concepts and contribute our own capabilities to the Coalition's continued development. Maya felt a surge of hope. If the logical, analytical Katorians could see the value of the Coalition's approach, perhaps others would follow. We would be honored to welcome the Katorian Federation as a member of the Coalition. What capabilities does your species bring to our partnership? The alien's form straightened with obvious pride. Advanced quantum computing technology, stellar engineering capabilities, and perhaps most importantly, historical archives dating back 50,000 years. We believe our knowledge of galactic history, combined with the Coalition's innovative approach to governance, could help establish a truly lasting peace among the stars. As the diplomatic session continued, Maya noticed movement outside the station's windows. Ships were arriving from across the galaxy, their designs reflecting the diverse species that had chosen freedom over the Council's rigid hierarchy. A graceful Pelagian deep space vessel moved alongside the angular lines of a rebellious Valorian colony ship. Crystalline Zephyrian transport sparkled in the light of the system's twin stars, while human craft buzzed between them like busy insects, coordinating the complex dance of interspecies cooperation. The door to the observation lounge opened one final time, admitting Dr. Amanda Foster, the agricultural specialist who had helped transform the Coalition's farming systems. Her youthful enthusiasm had matured into a deep understanding of how different species could combine their biological knowledge in ways that benefited everyone. Maya, you need to see this, Amanda said, her eyes bright with excitement. She activated a portable holographic projector, filling the lounge with the image of a massive space structure under construction. This is Project Unity, our first joint research station. It's being built using Katorian quantum construction techniques, powered by human fusion technology, protected by Zephyrian defensive shields, and coordinated through Valorian biological communication networks. Maya studied the design with growing amazement. The station was unlike anything she had ever seen, combining the best elements of multiple species technologies into a unified whole that was greater than the sum of its parts. What's its purpose? Pure research, Amanda replied, her voice filled with wonder. No military applications, no commercial exploitation, just the pursuit of knowledge for the benefit of all member species. We're already receiving applications from scientists throughout the galaxy, including several from former Council worlds. Ambassador Kethvar's eyes brightened with interest. This project represents a fundamental shift in galactic scientific philosophy. The Council system encouraged competition between research teams, often resulting in duplicated efforts and suppressed discoveries. Project Unity will enable unprecedented cooperation between the galaxy's greatest minds. As they spoke, Maya noticed something on the holographic display that made her heart race with hope. The Galactic Communication Network showed a clear pattern. Ships were moving away from Council space in increasing numbers, heading toward Coalition territory. Entire star systems were declaring independence from the crumbling Council, requesting permission to join the growing alliance of free worlds. The communication system chimed with another incoming transmission, this one carrying the emergency codes of the Council's highest authorities. Maya accepted the call, and the image of High Counselor Vexthul appeared in the display. The proud Krathari leader looked haggard, his compound eyes dulled with exhaustion and his mandibles trembling with barely controlled desperation. Director? Rodriguez, Vexthul began, his voice carefully controlled despite the obvious strain. The Council wishes to discuss the possibility of cooperative arrangements between our organizations. Maya kept her expression neutral. What kind of cooperative arrangements, High Counselor? Trade agreements, technology sharing, perhaps joint research projects. Each word seemed to cause Vexthul physical pain. The Council recognizes that the Coalition has achieved remarkable success in its brief existence. Behind Vexthul, Maya could see other council representatives gathered in what looked like a crisis meeting. Their various forms showed signs of stress and exhaustion as they watched their civilization crumble around them. "Hi, Counselor," Maya said gently. "The Coalition is always willing to cooperate with any organization that shares our principles of equality and mutual respect. However, our experience suggests that the Council system is fundamentally incompatible with these principles." Vexthol's eyes flashed with anger, but he controlled himself with visible effort. What would it take for the Council to earn Coalition cooperation? Maya exchanged glances with her colleagues before answering. "True equality, High Counselor. An end to hierarchical species rankings. Shared decision-making based on consensus rather than domination. Recognition that every species has unique gifts to contribute, regardless of their technological development or military power." The silence that followed stretched for nearly a minute. Finally, Vexthol spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're asking us to abandon everything the Council represents." "No," Maya replied firmly. "We're asking you to embrace everything the Council could become. The choice is yours to make." The transmission ended without another word, leaving Maya and her colleagues alone with the weight of the moment. Outside the station windows, the ships of the Coalition continued their endless dance of cooperation and mutual support. In the distance, the construction beams of Project Unity painted bright lines across the darkness of space. Dr. James Park was the first to break the silence. "Do you think they'll do it? Abandon their hierarchy for genuine cooperation?" Maya looked out at the thriving civilization they had built in just 2 short years. She watched the impossible made real through nothing more than the simple idea that beings could work together as equals, that diversity was strength rather than weakness, that cooperation was more powerful than domination. "Some will," she said finally. "Others won't. But that's their choice to make." Admiral Sarah Chen chuckled softly. "You know what the irony is? 2 years ago they told us we weren't worthy of joining their civilization. Turns out they were right." Ambassador Kethvar raised an eyebrow in curiosity. "How do you calculate that conclusion, Admiral?" Sarah gestured toward the bustling activity outside the station, where beings from dozens of species worked together in perfect harmony. "We were never meant to join their civilization. We were meant to build our own." As Maya watched the ships of the Coalition moving through space in coordinated purpose, she realized that Sarah was absolutely right. Humanity hadn't failed to find its place in the galaxy. They had created a place worthy of what the galaxy could become. The old order was dead, but from its ashes something beautiful was being born. A civilization based not on the dominance of the strong over the weak, but on the simple recognition that every thinking being had something valuable to contribute. It was a lesson that had taken the galaxy millennia to learn, and it had taken humanity to teach it. Maya smiled as she watched the future unfold before her eyes, bright with infinite possibility. The stars themselves seemed to sing with the promise of what was to come. A galaxy united not in conquest, but in cooperation, where the strength of the many was built from the contributions of each individual voice. The Independent Worlds Coalition had become something greater than the sum of its parts, and it was just the beginning.